All right, so we're back on the F450 project today. It's part number 1,673,229. And in the last video, we got all the heads cleaned up and we were going to order waiting on parts. And I was struggling with this because with these 5.4 and 6.8, the 3-valve engines, they have a common failure point in the heads, which is these cam followers. These cam followers are notorious for the bearings to go bad in this cam follower, and the needle bearings in here, you'll hear them. Hear that squeak? But the bearings will go bad, and sometimes when it locks up, it'll either destroy the cam like I showed you in the last video, or it'll just kick the cam follower out and allow one of the valves to stay open, come loose, and have the problem we had. There's 5 or 6 of them that are questionable. And then when I inspect these and you start looking at the wear on the roller, and you see that this one's nice and flat, this one's got a little bit of pitting, this one's pretty rough. You can see how this one's kind of on the edge. It's not wearing flat, like it's not laying flat. And there's several more out here. You'll see the wear is accelerating on one side, which leads us to believe that maybe the bearing inside there is going bad. So that's one problem. The next problem is these lash adjusters are how these get oiled. So this lash adjuster sits in a cavity, and the oil is supplied through the oil pump in this cavity. And as the cam comes around and pushes on this cam follower, it does this. And the oil is inside this cylinder, so when it pushes down on it, it's supposed to spray oil. See how the hole is off to the side? The intention is to lubricate between the lash adjuster and the rocker, but also spray it this way over top of the roller and then getting the valve as well. Well, there's many of these lash adjusters that are stuck, or they move very, very little. This one here, that's all it moves. So when they don't move, like, that's terrible. So if they don't move like they should, if it can't move like it should, then you're not getting, you see how that one plunges fairly decent? And this one just a little bit, some of them. So what's happening is that means that if it doesn't plunge, it doesn't get much oil. And again, that could cause the same thing. It could cause these bearings to lock up. It could cause the rollers to wear. It could cause the roller to kick out because it's not lubed. And, you know, these are a common failure point. And I have been lying to myself saying that I wasn't going to replace this because it's just a 190,000 mile motor, and no matter what we do, it's still only a 190,000 mile motor. Well, again, I was lying to myself because ever since I took those heads off, I've had all brand new lash adjusters and cam followers in my cart on the website that I get these parts from. So I have made the decision, this is not worth the gamble to put this engine back together, because it's not a question of if we're going to have a failure, just how soon. So we're going to just replace all of this and with new. All the valve springs I'm okay with. We're going to lap the valves in the heads. I think that's going to be okay. The valve guides are okay. The seats are okay. That should seal pretty good. So that brings us to the engine, and it's a 190,000 mile engine. I don't want to do all that work and just put it back together and have a 190,000 mile motor. I think for the small amount of extra cost in parts, it's worthwhile for us to just pull this engine out, tear it down completely, clean up the block, hone the cylinders out, clean all that up, replace the rings, the rods, the mains, and all of the timing components in here. We'll replace the oil pan gasket, the front timing cover seal, timing cover gaskets, rear main seal, and then we'll put everything back together and have a fresh motor, because it just seems like that repair right there, you're so close. The cab is off. It's literally an hour, and we could have this engine out, separated from the transmission, and mostly torn down. So I think that's where we're headed. Because if I repair this thing with the heads, just do the head repair and just replace all that parts, it's not a question of if this is gonna fail. It's just how soon. So we have the best odds by doing what we're gonna do. It's gonna take a lot more time, and honestly, for the amount of cost of parts that it is difference, that's not a lot. The amount of time it's gonna be is a lot. The amount that it's gonna increase the value of a truck with a fresh engine, a fresh gas engine, is probably not. We'll probably do just a little bit better than our cost. It's probably not gonna be anything substantial, but I'll sleep well. I'll sleep better at night knowing that we put it together this way, instead of just bolting it together and somebody, go along and then suddenly have a bottom end failure, or something else was on the brink of failure. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to pull this motor out. Let's get it torn down, and we'll inspect it the same way we did the rest of it. Well, if this appears as though it's going somewhere for storage, that's because it is. I have decided to not do anything with that engine right now because things have changed. I don't know what I want to do with it yet. I don't want to commit to it till I've decided. And the next thing is, this truck is no longer going to be a gas truck. This is going to be a diesel swap. A lot of guys probably would have said, go get a 12 valve Cummins and throw in it, but that's not what we're going to do. We are putting in something else, and let me just show you what it's going to be. So this is the donor truck. This is a 1990 International, and the motor we're going to use is here. This is a DT360, which is the same displacement as a 5.9 Cummins, only this one is a wet line motor. So it has, in my opinion, it's by far a better motor. The only drawback to this style of motor in a 450 like that is it's meant for bigger chassis and bigger trucks. So when you're trying to make it fit in this stuff, you can run into some challenges. Like this is the flywheel housing. What's nice about it is it will take an automatic or a manual transmission. In this case, it's an Allison AT545. We won't use that, but it will allow us to use either an SAE3 or SAE2 bell housing. I think that's what that is. I'll have to remeasure this and see. But we're going to be using a manual transmission. This housing, we'll be able to use a 14-inch clutch with this. And we're going to use a medium-duty transmission, not a pickup truck transmission, which means transmission selection is going to be very important because the rear end ratio of that truck is 488. You can get them as low as 373 if you want to re-gear it, but we'll save that till last. The engine itself is heavier than a 12 valve, but I think it's a good fit. It's a good motor. They only made these for like 6 years, and most of the time they were in a lot of buses or lighter GVW trucks like this. This one happens to be 190 horsepower, and you can see it does have an air charge cooler, which is part of the half and half radiator system. It is a mechanical injection pump. It's a Bosch A-style pump, so it will be able to get some decent horsepower. There's going to be bigger turbo, bigger injectors, turn the pump up, all that kind of stuff, a free-flowing exhaust. So it's going to be a big deal. Another drawback to this is you see how big this pulley is here, how far that sticks out, and the damper. That will cause us some clearance issues. We won't be able to run that fan because it's way too high. We'll have to run an electric fan, but there'll be a lot of challenges for it. Look at that, it's got a block heater. Looks like it's new too. There will be some challenges, but this truck is not being built for me, because if I was building this truck for me, I would do one of two things. I would use a 6.7 Cummins, or I would use a DT466. I got a lot of supporting parts that go with this. If you're a guy that had to go buy the motor, buy the transmission, buy the adapter to put the two things together, buy the engine mounts, buy all the fuel system, buy the radiator and everything to go with it, and the piping and so on, probably not a cost-effective endeavor. But because I have so many of these parts around, it can be a cost-effective, or at least not as expensive option. Peter wants this truck. Him and I are going to put this thing together, and he's going to have him a truck, and there's going to be some more work to it. We have a big welding project planned for this as well. But the guys in our Facebook group, JC Smith Projects, you already know probably what I'm talking about with the welding project. So anyways, that's where we're at, and that's the introduction to it. Peter has been gathering up materials and parts so far, but at this point it's going to be such a big build. I got to get the frame out of the shop. We got to bring something in real quick, and I got to do some work, get something handled, and this is why we're not going to fix that engine right now, because it's not necessary, because this is what's going in. So let's go get that frame out of the shop. At this point, it's like the point of no return. Usually when I strip them down this far, it's not coming back. But I think this one will be a nice truck. We're going to go ahead and sandblast the frame at the same time. And make sure I don't hit my motor home. I can touch the cradle, I don't really care, but I don't want to touch the motor home. Yeah, we're good. There we go. Anyways, so usually at this point, you get a truck torn down this far, it's a point of no return. It basically is a parts truck. But Peter wants to build this thing, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and get the frame all cleaned up at the same time. Try and make the nicest truck we can. Now we need some cribbing to set this on. So at this point we would typically get out the wire wheel needle scaler and pressure wash this thing, get it all cleaned up. But the next step of this is going to be doing some frame modifications, possibly, to get the engine to fit in here, so we don't want to do that quite yet. We want to do all our mock-up first and then deal with the frame. Now, we're going to be doing some frame modification to this back here. This cab to axle measurement doesn't work, so that's going to be changed, and look forward to that, guys. We've also been working on something else. I don't know if you'll have seen it before this video or after, but we got something else that's going to help us get some better results, nicer, cleaner, all that kind of stuff. So hope you guys enjoyed. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, leave your comments down below, and do us a favor, give us a thumbs up, so it will help us to continue to grow the channel and continue to make these videos. Thanks for watching, guys. Catch you on the next one.